traffic, sailplane 4041 uniform, departing 1 knot, rider inbound.
Actually, each newer glider that you get, they're going to be easier to fly, not harder to fly, until you get to the very newest of gliders. And we saw here at the contest, the new gliders, they're spectacular, they're incredibly fast, and they also can be a handful. We saw some ground loops of some, $250,000, $350,000 gliders.
At this point, I had heard a loud twang, and I looked up, and the tow rope was snaking toward the tow plane. I'm thinking, oh man, I just had a rope break. And I looked back at Harris Hill, and I said, well, there's no way I can make it back there.
Buying a new sailplane manufactured to meet your specifications is a great experience, but one that requires patience.
This is Soaring the Sky, a glider pilot's podcast, coming to you from the Mid-Atlantic region here in the United States and bringing you great soaring content from glider pilots all over the globe. We now join Chuck and our guest pilot.
Hey, this is Mitch, co-producer of the show. Last week I reached out to past guest pilots and told them that our 100th pod was coming up soon and encouraged people to drop a congratulations message on SpeakPipe as a nice little surprise for Chuck. We'll be sprinkling in a few of these messages during the course of the show, and thanks to those of you that took the time to record your messages. So please enjoy today's show. We think it's going to be one of our best ever.
Thank you, Mitch. I'm super excited and looking forward to listening to those messages along with you. This is just a perfect example of the awesome team I have here at Soaring the Sky. Yes, this is episode 100, and as promised, this is going to be one of the best yet. I'm excited. Glider pilot, famous YouTuber, Bruno Vassel, is here. He's going to help us celebrate, and of course, has some stories to share with you and tell us what has been happening with him lately. Our Listener Logbook is back, and we have a glider instructor that will share a very unique story about one of his most memorable flights he had at Harris Hill. And all of us at one point in time have struggled with the question, do I continue to fly the club gliders? Maybe I should purchase my own. And that can be very intimidating. Our friend Sergio The Soaring Master is back to talk about just that, buying a sailplane. So let's have some fun and get this 100th episode launched.
Hey Chuck, it's Joe Capra, the Gliding Goat. Congratulations on your 100th episode of the Soaring the Sky podcast. I'm really looking forward to the next 100 episodes.
Bruno Vassel, welcome back to the show. Happy to have you.
Hi, Chuck. It's great to be here.
It's our 100th episode, actually, so this is pretty special.
Wow. Yeah, that's neat. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a lot of fun, but that kind of reminds me, I wanted to congratulate you on breaking 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. What that means is that people are inspired by balding fat guys that fly. They look at it and they say, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. So the bar is really low. Come on, people, start building your own YouTube channels and multiple camera angles. It's not that hard, I promise. So yeah, it's fun to share soaring.
Yeah, your videos are a lot of fun to watch. They're great.
Yeah,
so sticking with YouTube for a minute, can you maybe talk about a video that you posted that maybe you didn't really expect much of it at the time, but then it ended up doing really well on your channel? And on the other end, have you ever posted maybe something that was just the coolest thing ever and then it just kind of languished? Do you always know when content is going to be good? Like, how is it? I mean,
that's a great question, and the short answer is no, not at all. A couple of my videos have now surpassed, I think, 4 million views or something like that. And I shake my head and say, why in the world did that one get? One is a difficult takeoff behind a tow plane that's a little bit too slow. Glider pilots, they'd say, oh, that's interesting content. But most of the people that watch my videos have never even thought of gliding. I guess I've won the YouTube lottery in that they like to just suggest my videos to random people at 2 a.m. And, you know, so some of the videos, they might look at the thumbnail and they might think that it's a video game. And then luckily, you know, they go in, they start watching it, and they're compelled enough to stay and watch. So they like the content, and that's what YouTube likes, is they don't just click in, click out, they stay. But many people come in and they comment, "Oh, I thought this was a video game," for the first 2 minutes. It's like, nope, this is real life.
So I saw there on the channel that you took your daughter actually up for the first glider ride.
I did.
Looked like a beautiful day.
Oh, it was fun. And the poor thing, she got a lot of hate from that in the comments because, you know, she's a millennial and 16 years old, and she recorded the flight with her cell phone. I was in the back seat, so I didn't see how much she was recording it, but she got a lot of hate comments of put the phone down, look out the window. But we had a great time, and she really enjoyed it, and she wants to go for another flight, so it's fun.
Oh, great. Now, that was the Grove 103, right?
That is a Grove Twinisteer. Yeah.
Oh, Grove Twinisteer. Okay. All right. I gotcha. But that was in Nephi, that area too.
Yeah. Yeah. And
okay.
Flying over Mount Nebo, which is just spectacular. So.
Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. So maybe does she have some aspirations on learning how to soar, or
not at all?
No,
but you know what though? Lightning can strike twice. So my oldest daughter, Lexi, you know, I'm a power pilot too, and so we have a family airplane, and so I'd take the family on trips, and she was always the one that would fight to be in the very back so she could kind of spread out and fall asleep. Well, lo and behold, 6 months ago, she, you know, says, "Hey, Dad, guess what?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I want to be an airline pilot." I'm like, "What?" And she,
wow,
I want to take flight lessons. And I'm like, "You've never had any interest." Well, she's now soloed and she's doing great. And within the next couple of weeks, she'll have her private pilot license. So you never know who might get the bug. So they might not show interest initially, but my key with my kids is don't push them, because A, it takes a lot of commitment, and B, if they're not interested in something that I'm interested in, that's fine. They can choose their own passions.
Well, you've got to be a proud dad. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun to now share this love with her, and she's now starting to fly gliders too. So I have my original Phoebus that I owned. I bought it back 3 years ago, and I'm hoping that she will fly it someday. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, we had talked about that the last time we spoke, and I was actually going to ask you about that, but that's very cool.
Yeah, she might fit in it. I sure don't, but I'm keeping it for her to fit in.
So speaking of youngsters and soaring, are there any STEM programs there or organizations in Utah that are helping to bring young people out to the airport or try soaring?
You know, there's the Power, what is it? The Power Squadron, Young Eagles, and they do some gliding, but not a lot in Utah. So,
okay,
you know, maybe someday, and probably somebody who's listening will say, no, there's this, and this, but that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm not seeing kids out at the airport all the time.
All right, Bruno, I'm excited about this one. I'd like to talk about the 18-meter nationals just held there in Nephi. I've got a lot of questions for you. So, if you don't mind, let's jump right in.
Let's do.
All right. So maybe you can help set the stage here and tell us about the operations on the ground, like how many line crew and how many other volunteers doing race coordination, you know, weather, how many tow planes, all that.
Oh boy. This took a minor army to do. This, I think, was number lucky 13 in terms of the number of contests that we have now run. I started my first contest in Nephi in 2013, and as I said, you know, we've now done 13, so we've done a couple, 2 a year kind of a thing, both in Nephi and then also in Logan. So the answer is we luckily, this was not our first rodeo, but we're talking, this one, because of a broken tow plane just before the meet, we only ended up having 5 tow planes, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
And we were chock full. You know, we were at the limit of 65 gliders, and the pilots were very patient. We tried the best we could to launch them as quickly as possible, but there was some sitting in some air conditioned cars at the back of the grid to stay nice and cool. But to go back to it, we had ground crew. We had 4 primary, and then we also had additional volunteers that showed up. We had obviously a CD. I was the contest manager. Our scorer, unfortunately, John Godfrey, he ended up needing to do it remote. He was hoping to fly. Our CD, that was Marshall, and he did a fantastic job. And by the way, Marshall, so we brought him from back east. He'd only CD'd contests back east, and
Oh, wow.
and this was his first Western contest, and he did a great job. So it's Marshall McClung, his full name, but very happy to work with him. We then had a whole host of people behind the scenes, whether it's filling oxygen or doing accounting, rolling the landing areas, preparing things. So, oh my goodness, it did take an army. So no, I didn't answer your question as to the exact numbers because it would take a while to count. I mean, there were probably 15 to 20 plus total volunteers that really helped to pull this off. But it was a huge
nice.
success, and my goodness, did we have fun.
Oh, yeah. I saw a lot of the pictures from there. It looked pretty awesome. Looked like everybody was having a good time.
Yeah. Well, you have a good time when you've got good weather and you haven't hit your glider on a runway light with your wing. And I make that joke because we unfortunately had multiple pilots pull off because of ground damage to their gliders, pulling them around.
Oh,
So
wow.
we've got really strong, fragile ships.
From front to back, how long did it take everybody to get launched on a typical day there at Nephi? And roughly what altitude does everybody jump off tow on race day? Like, how long or far was a typical tow, or are they all different depending on the task for the day?
Yeah. Boy, you're asking for the dirty laundry, aren't you? Jeez. So actually, John Godfrey, I just got off the phone with him, and he did calculations, and it took us a full 10 minutes per cycle. And that's from tow to the next tow.
Okay.
We're dealing with density altitudes of anywhere on the low side, 7,500 to 10,000 feet. And we've got some pretty good tow planes, but when they're pulling these super ships with tiny wings and they're 1,300 pounds loaded with water, it takes a little while. So average tow normally, just normal contest tow to 2,000 feet. Nephi is great because we can tow to the west hills and not right to the mountain where you have to grind right on the mountain. You can stay away from the mountain, but we just tow over a couple of miles away. So some of the tows ended up being towards the end or weird weather things, 2,500 feet, but for the most part, 2,000 feet.
Okay.
And to answer your question, it took too long, but we went as quick as we could. So
yeah.
But I mean, we still were able to get in 3.5, 4 hour tasks. So it's not like, because of towing. Yeah. But no, we learned some lessons, and we're going to make sure we at least have 6, possibly even 7 tow planes for another big contest like this.
Can you talk to listeners a bit about what happens when there are significant changes to weather and cloud base, for example, prior to start of a race? Do race organizers change anything like the starting altitude or turn points? How does all that work?
Yeah. So if there's any questions about the day, well, let's start with how a day actually works at a contest. So you've got the weather people, and they wake up super early and they start checking the the pixie sticks and the fish bones on the ground that they're looking at to try to figure out the weather. And in our contest, 8 a.m., we then had a contest task committee meeting every day at 8. And so the weather person then tells us what's going on, and we then have to come up with our tasks. And then we usually go pretty early. So 9 a.m. was the pilots meeting. So we have an hour to figure it out and get everything ready for the pilots meeting. So that's kind of how that works. So we typically, if there's any question at all, there's going to be a task A, Alpha, task Bravo, even possibly a Task Charlie. So if all of a sudden thunderstorms start popping up more than we thought, or the launch takes a little bit longer, or the lift starts later or something like that, we can then change it. The way that the rules work is that the contest director can actually change the task even when everybody's up in the air, but before the task is started. So he would then do a radio call and say, hey, we're going to change to task Bravo. And then a pilot up in the air would then repeat that, because the pilots that are further away might not hear it from the ground. And then we do a roll call where everybody has to say that they've heard it, and then we do it. So it sounds like a lot of work, but it's a nice flexibility. And there were multiple times that Nephi where it's not that it blew up and was horrible stormy, but because of one reason or another, we did decide to go with a Task Bravo type situation.
Well, sounds like it works though.
Yeah. The people that we were dealing with, these are all pros, and so they'd done it before. Speaking of the 18-meter nationals, I mean, we're talking, we limited it to 35 gliders, and I would say 20 to 25 of them are past national champions, and the rest pretty much were all at least had won a regional contest. This was really good pilots. So I'm just trying to kind of talk them up, because I ended up at the bottom of the score sheet. So they were all really, really good. They were amazing.
Well, speaking of, how much of an advantage is it on racing in your home court there? Stuff like comfortable with landouts and knowing exactly where the restricted airspace is and where the house lift is located, all that.
Huge advantage. So, I mean, I was so comfortable that I ended up landing out twice during this contest. And these were on days where, everybody else made it back. But I was so comfortable. I'm like, oh, I'm going to, push and go into this area and stuff. And then it didn't work. And there I am sitting in a farmer's field, and I'm thinking, I should have made it back. But it was a good experience. The two landouts were in fantastic fields. No angry farmers, was not forced to marry any of their daughters. And it was, quick retrieve. So it was good. I love landing out. It sounds silly, but I've been flying for 27 years, and I think these were landouts 13 and 14. And they were in cut wheat fields and just as smooth as landing on a runway. So it was good.
Well, it's like a mini adventure every time, right?
Oh, it is. Every land out. In fact, I went on a third land out retrieve to go pick somebody else that landed out, because on the day that I made it back, because they're fun. If you've never been on a retrieve, go one. Number two is, if you're flying gliders, push it. So sometimes you're going to land out, and you're going to see that it's a positive experience.
Hi, Chuck. This is George Lee in sunny Queensland, Australia. I just want to congratulate you on the 100th episode of Soaring the Sky. I really enjoyed the time on air with you earlier this year, and I admire your dedication to keeping soaring pilots both united and informed, as well as giving encouragement and inspiration towards the realization of personal goals. May Soaring the Sky continue to encourage and inspire many for years to come. Although I'm now retired from soaring, I continue to take an interest in what's going on in the world of soaring. All the best, Chuck.
I do want to thank our longtime sponsor of the show. We are so honored to have the support of the Southern California Soaring Academy. They are doing meaningful and almost monthly now nonprofit outreach work with local area veterans and also young people in STEM programs at their top-notch glider port facility located just outside of Los Angeles there in the high desert of Southern California. They also have a fantastic flight school there, and they are continuing to turn out great glider pilots every month. If you'd like to donate to their nonprofit initiatives or learn more about their flight school, please pop over to the website at soaringacademy.org or check them out on Instagram at Soaring Academy. So, looking at the speeds posted for almost the whole week, it just seemed like you had to be off the charts fast, to even have a chance. Maybe you could talk about just how fast the conditions were this year.
Great question. So let me jump into something. So the very first day, we race, and I had no idea what to expect, and I ended up with 144.5 kilometers an hour
Oh, wow.
for the task, and
Yeah.
I flew 417 kilometers. So I'm thinking, wow. By the way, I'm flying a 15-meter glider at the 18-meter nationals. I was flying my 27,
Oh,
but I was
wow.
like, it's not like I'm trying to get on the world's team or anything. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to have fun and
Right.
fly my glider.
Yeah.
So 144.45. I'm all feeling good about myself. I upload the file and I start looking at everybody else. I ended up being 21st for the day. And for you Americans that are kind of dumb like me, we don't know the metric system. 144.5 kilometers an hour is almost 90 miles an hour. So my first day, I fly 90 miles an hour, and it was good for 21st place. So that just shows you what kind of speeds. So the top guy, it was 173 kilometers an hour. And let me just do a quick search. And that is 107.5 miles an hour.
Wow.
So I'm thinking I'm really good at almost 90.
Yeah,
and,
right.
The winner's 17 miles an hour faster. So that's what
man.
we're dealing with. Just amazing.
That's crazy. Okay, so especially there in Nephi, how important is hydration, peeing, eating while racing? Don't a lot of pilots just try to simplify their workload and drink less or eat less, and so they pee less while they're racing?
Yes. If you get behind, you are going to have a really hard time catching up. So what I found is I was drinking a whole lot, but because we were sweating so much, I was prepared to pee in the cockpit if I needed to, but I actually never ended up doing it any of the 2 weeks that we were flying. So yes, it's incredibly important, and I didn't see anybody skimping on drinking.
Oh, wow.
We were probably drinking a couple of liters of water, per day, and it was just barely enough to kind of sustain us.
Oh,
so,
wow.
So yes, be prepared to pee so that way you don't, chintz on the drinking. But another thing too, though, is once we finally get up into the air, I mean, we're flying typically between 14 and 17,000 feet. So, outside air temperature is around 30, 35 degrees.
Yeah.
And so with it being cooler up there, then obviously the capillaries shrink, and you don't need as much as you would on the ground, of course. So
for glider pilots, Bruno, that haven't flown wet with water ballast before, what's the feel and difference in the cockpit like? I mean, on tow, thermaling, trying to get up versus a dry glider without ballast?
And the answer is completely dependent on the glider. So I absolutely loved my ASW 20. This was a glider I had before my 27. It was a 20B, and you could really, fill it up pretty good with water. And the difference that it flew between dry and wet was significant. You could really feel, it felt like when you were dry, you were flying around in a sports car. And when it was wet, it felt more like an SUV. So there's one example. Now my 27 flying it wet, it feels really darn close to the same thing as dry. The only difference is I'm just flying faster. So, I have to thermal faster, and then all the other flap speeds are faster. But I really enjoy flying wet. So I think once you get to the newer generation of gliders, so whether it's the 27 or the 28 on the Schleicher side, or the Ventus 2s, they really then figured out how to make it handle well, even when it was full of water. So, if it's one of your first gliders, kind of putting it a different way, the newer the gliders, the easier they are to fly. So, typically you buy an older glider to start with. Actually, each newer glider that you get, they're going to be easier to fly, not harder to fly, until you get to the very newest of gliders. And we saw here at the contest, the new gliders, they're spectacular. They're incredibly fast. And they also can be a handful, full of water, both, takeoffs, landings, crosswinds. They have such small surface area on the wings. We saw some ground loops of some, $250,000, $350,000 gliders in strong crosswind situations. They can be a handful. So, quite frankly, it seems like the gliders that are one generation old might be the nicest to fly in the more difficult or heavy conditions. But I'm sure, that said, I mean, of course, I'm going to eventually buy a new glider. So I'm not just going to stick with the older ones, but there are some benefits of, a little bit older, but not too old of technology.
Oh, you're talking about ground loops. So what were the best and worst memories or moments from Nephi for you this year?
Well, the best is that everybody ended up staying safe. So, we've now had enough events that unfortunately we have seen some very dramatic things. We've had some people even pass away during our contests, and I'm not going to go into that. But for an organizer, all of these people have become my friends that are coming here, and to see them come, have fun, and be safe, that really is the number one high for me. So that's the good thing. The negative, in past years, there have always been, come on, let's talk the truth. Who goes to glider nationals? They're usually type A personalities, very focused. And, in past years, I've had some difficult pilots that have grumbled, and, I'm the type of personality that you might have 64 people that say, this was amazing. But if you have one grumbler, it's really hard to not be satisfied because you think of the one grumbler. Well, this event, even though we were not perfect, people seem to be a little bit more patient. And I think it's because they've been forced to wear masks around for the last, year, and all of us have. And so I think just everybody was just jonesing to get out and to have fun, and they did have fun. And again, the weather participated. And so that was a positive. And so again, if you go to a contest, just be gentle on the CD and the organizers. They're trying their best. They're volunteers. And, what you say does affect them maybe more than you'd think. We put on a tough shell, but words matter.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems that a growing number of racing pilots, as they progress along their careers, and they really start enjoying two-seat flying. Have you done that in the last few years? And do you see yourself maybe partnering with someone in a two-seater anytime soon?
I've thought about it. And the answer is I have so far to go still in my own career. I feel like my doing these contests for the last 8 years has maybe hurt my contest flying and my experience of, progressing in some ways. And so for myself personally, I've got a lot of growing to do. I mean, again, here, look, the winner was 107 miles an hour and I was only 90. Well, as we went through the contest, even in a single contest, it's amazing how much you can grow and improve. And, my best day, I ended up a 9th place one day. And my personal goal, I was hoping to get to top 5. And that ended up being just completely unrealistic with these guys. They're just too amazing, and their ships were too amazing. But it was a positive experience, and I saw myself grow and progress even over the course of a single contest. So getting back to your question on a two-seater, am I going to ever own a two-seater? Well, especially now that my daughter is flying and so forth. It could be in the future.
Yeah, that's absolutely be awesome if you could share the experience, especially with your daughter.
Yeah, well, and I've met so many fun friends that both with the YouTube videos and the contest that it would be fun to have a two-seater. It's like, hey, come out and fly with me and let's just have some fun.
Bruno, I wanted to talk about gust fronts. I bet most competition pilots have had some encounters with these and gave them a memory or a nightmare or two. How about you? You got any stories you'd like to share or words of advice for pilots that haven't had their encounter yet?
Yes, my first gust front was actually in Hobbs, New Mexico, and that was in 2012. And this huge, giant gust front came through, and we were already on the ground, so no big deal there. The only other gust front that I encountered in racing and contest flying was actually this contest here. We were out in the middle of the desert way west of Nephi, and there was a giant. There must have been a microburst, and you could just see this gust front spreading out. But kind of a boring story. But by the time it got to where we were flying, the air above it was not a big deal. But should you give them plenty of leeway and respect? Absolutely. I guess if we're not talking about giant dust storms, there were some storms at Nephi. Nephi is at the just a couple of miles away from a canyon, and if you get storms up the canyon, it'll blow down hard. And so there were some times where we were getting crosswinds that were gusting, into the mid 30s, and there were pilots trying to land. So my personal story was I came in, I finished the task. And I mean, it was blowing pretty hard. Now, we do have a crosswind landing area inside the airport that we've prepared for this type of situation. I luckily, though, had enough altitude that I could find some lift, and I actually just waited it out. Often you find pilots, when it's really bad weather, they just want to get on the ground. And It's like, wait, you're trying to get on the ground during the worst time. Just stay up, fly around for a little bit. It's going to calm down. So when I landed, 15 minutes before it's 35 knots crosswind, and I landed with 10 to 15 knot crosswind. No big deal.
Oh yeah. Really
so I guess my best advice is if you can, think through it and not rush and wait it out. My goodness, wait it out and then land when it's nice.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Chuck. This is Henrique Navarro from Brazil. And wow, man, congratulations for breaking the 100 episodes barrier. Here in Brazil, we love our podcast. It's an interesting way, to learn and at the same time to relax. So keep up the good job. Let's go to the 200. Bye-bye.
I have some exciting news, especially for you Condor pilots out there. We are glad to have our sponsor, Just Soaring, back with a couple of updates about their Glider Sim Pro, a sailplane simulator cockpit for Condor soaring. Their website is all new and now has a couple of videos to look at, updated product pictures and specs, and even a facts section to help answer some of your questions. If you follow the Soaring Academy on Instagram, you've probably seen one of the first production units in operation there at Crystal Airport, and so far it's a big hit with their students and instructors. Just Soaring is also proud to be the lead sponsor of the first ever FAI-sanctioned esports glider race. That's right, the Sailplane World Grand Prix is coming in September. The winning pilot gets a Glider Sim Pro. You'll be seeing lots more of their glider sim rigs across the U.S. and the rest of the world in the coming months. So check them out at justsoaring.com on the web or just.soaring on Instagram. So how important is it on big race days to stake out on your own, maybe, versus hanging with the lead group? Does it always pay or not really to hang with leaders as the competition progresses?
Okay, well, here's going to be the cop out. Yeah, Bruno's coming up with excuses. After the very first race day, my entire computer system crapped out, and so I ended up flying the entire race with a handheld UDI. And so I did have a V7 Vario that was connected to a power farm, so I could at least get alerts of, hey, you're about to hit somebody. But I couldn't, I didn't have any kind of a map where everybody was. So I actually flew this contest, most of this entire contest, either alone or every once in a while I'd see a glider visually. And then, oh, cool, there's somebody there. But it's even hard to see what their contest numbers are unless you're right next to them in the thermal. So long story short, I flew by myself most of this contest. The winners and the guys that did really well, many of them flew in packs. And I think, talking to them and hearing them talk about strategy, they were able to see each other, even when visually they couldn't. They could see each other on power farm and stuff. So it was very, very helpful. So the answer is, yeah, the guys that are going fast, typically we're not talking groups of 10 or 15 or 20 like you might see in Europe, but 3 to 5 gliders all flying fast together and kind of helping each other without talking on the radio. Yeah, that seems to go faster.
In the top 5 of the pilots, were there any pilots in particular that maybe jumped out at this competition that maybe were kind of dark horses that weren't expecting to do as well as they did?
No, so many of these guys are so good. If you look at the final standings, I mean, the top guys were all have been. Let me just look at the official. I wouldn't be surprised if the top at least 10 or 11 have all won some sort of a nationals before. So these guys are all really good. So there was something fun, and I need to point this out, and it was on. I'm sorry for the delay. All right, it was actually day 1. This was really, really fun. So Evan Ludeman, he's a Tango 8. He was also flying a 27. And he came in on 4th place for the day. So flying a 15-meter glider. And the winner was 173 kilometers an hour, and he was 171. So that was really
wow.
Now, Evan's a great pilot, but see him flying a 27, 15-meter at the 18-meter nationals on a very strong day. That was awesome. That was fun to see. So I guess you could say he was the dark horse. Let me just actually share something with you. Am I interested in getting a brand new, newest generation glider? Yes, I'll share with you. I'm got my eyes on maybe a 33, but seeing it flying with these guys in my 27. And now, unfortunately, again, because of the power farm issues, I couldn't fly with people that much. But when I did fly with them, I was really shocked. I did not feel like I was just falling away all the time. So what I attribute my ultimate standings to was more my decisions than my equipment. So is a brand new Ventus 3 or JS3 or 33, going to perform better than a 15-meter 27 that's 20 years old? Of course it is. But it's shocking, not as much as you might think. So I don't know, just kind of tidbit. Racing with these guys in a little 15-meter glider, I felt like when we actually were together, we could keep up with them. Yeah. So kind of fun.
Yeah, as long as you know what you're doing and you know how to fly. I mean, yeah, you stay in competing with them. Is there anybody you'd like to especially thank or give a shout out to at the 18-meter nationals, or maybe a competitor that cut you off in a gaggle and you want to publicly haze?
Darn you. There's no hate. No, actually, it's only love in this one. So the good news is nobody to call out and hate.
Right.
As for the people to thank, boy, if I start thinking, we're gonna dozen to 20 different people. Yeah. So let me just stick with the CD, Marshall McClung. He did a fantastic job. He had a lot of responsibility. Good job, Marshall. And then John Godfrey, he ended up scoring remotely, spending a lot of time, so that's just a lot of work and not a lot of fun there in the venue. So, those two guys, and then again, a whole bunch of other people that are. Now, let me just say one other person. That's our club president and here at Utah, and that's Mike Hendren, and he is kind of the unsung hero of Nephi behind the scenes. He spends many dozens, if not 100+ hours, helping me when it comes to registrations and accounting and things. So, huge thank you to him. But again, there's many other people too to thank. So, but those are the three if you're asking for shout outs.
Okay, so our last question before we do the famous soaring lightning round. One of the team here on the podcast, they got wind that you were going to be on the show, and they wanted me to ask you kind of a random question, so bear with me. His question is, what do you think of the notion of automated electric flaps like on the Duck Hawk, for example? And why don't you think this innovation has been adopted by the main manufacturers? I mean, isn't a computer by nature more efficient than a human when it comes to aerodynamic efficiency in making all those micro adjustments many times a second?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And we've got a prototype glider. Is it the Nexus? That's kind of doing that right now too.
Okay.
That's a huge open class. My answer would be flaps are really easy. Now, I might not be doing them anywhere near as efficiently, but from my point of view, flaps are not that hard. So you get these standard class pilots or newer pilots that are all afraid of, I need to have 20 years of experience before I go to a flap ship. You can learn flaps in 5 minutes. Just know the speeds of when you need to be at the different flap settings, and it's not that hard. So maybe this is my ignorance over how much more you could gain from automated flaps, but when I'm flying, I'm not even thinking of the flaps. It just automatically happens with the left hand. So maybe because it's just not that hard. So maybe there's a bunch to gain, but I'm not aware of it.
Chuck, hi, it's Scott from Aerox Aviation Oxygen Systems. We're proud to be a sponsor of Soaring the Sky. Congratulations on your 100th episode, and we love what you're doing for the sport of soaring. Keep up the great work, and we're looking forward to the next 100 episodes.
Our sponsors mean a lot to us, and one of those important sponsors is Aerox Aviation Oxygen Systems. They are number one in portable and engineered oxygen systems and your source for FAA-approved oxygen mask and portable systems. Aerox recently introduced the Aerox Pro 2 Plus Flight Bag portable oxygen system. This thing is small, lightweight, and it is super simple to use. The Pro 2 Plus is perfect for that occasional user who wants the flexibility to access those higher altitudes without having to worry about flying impaired. It's now available at Aerox distributors and, of course, at Aerox.com. So remember our friends at Aerox, engineered for aviators. Well, thank you, Bruno. It is time for our soaring lightning round. So basically, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can answer the question or you can pass on it. What do you think?
I'm looking forward to making a fool of myself. Let's do this.
Okay.
I have no idea what you're going to do.
Most memorable single glider flight of your life, if you had to pick one. When and where?
Grand Canyon, first time. Got a video of it. I'd never gotten emotional in the cockpit before, but flew from Nephi down to the Grand Canyon and back. I think it was like 275 miles one way, and flying over the Grand Canyon and seeing it. I still even get choked up thinking about how just amazing that experience was. So hands down,
I can't imagine.
Yeah, but if you want to, you can experience it with me on my YouTube channel. I ended up filming it. It was fun.
Awesome. Absolutely. Again, if you had to pick only one, your favorite gliding spot, money and time, no object. If you could be teleported there, where would it be?
Ooh, I'm looking forward to flying the Alps in Europe someday. So, nice. And I have not flown there, but that's a goal. Love to fly there.
When you were first starting in your cross-country soaring and racing, who were some of the pilots that you really looked up to most, and who helped you develop as a pilot?
The answer is actually nobody. So there's something wrong with me. I started flying, and as a student pilot, I started in a 233. Within a month, I was in a 126, and I immediately started going cross country. As far as I was allowed to go, 25 miles out. I actually landed out in a farmer's field, my very first 126 flight. So the other pilots at the time, they weren't doing much cross country. So I actually kind of taught myself cross country by myself, but ended up developing a whole bunch of friends. But this was, for me, it was a lot self-taught.
Flight preparation, day before, morning of, and what are the things you most commonly forget over the years?
So the night before, I jump onto my weather programs to see, what are the clouds, what are the winds, and what's the expected location of the best lift. The morning of, I'm checking it again, and I get really bored if I just go up and fly. So I have to create a task every single time for myself, whether it's a state record or attempt or something like that. And then in terms of what I forget, there have been multiple times to the first part of the season where I forget my batteries for my glider. So I just end up flying it as a without any batteries, just a pure glider.
Well, that's not always a bad thing. It's kind of nice to do that.
I don't think this is very lightning. Maybe I should need to have a shorter answer.
You're
Sorry.
fine. What kind of GoPro are you using right now, and what editing software do you use to make your YouTube videos, or is that a secret?
Just barely bought a new Hero 9. Happy with it so far. I also bought their 360 camera, and I was going to use it, but I did not film a single in-cockpit second during the contest. I was just too busy running it and then trying to fly it. So sorry, no footage from the contest. I'm excited to try the 360. That'll be fun. In terms of editing software, I use the big boy, Adobe Premiere Pro. And I think that the way that it compiles everything at the very end might be a slight edge over why sometimes my videos maybe seem a little bit higher quality than if you were to just upload straight from a GoPro. There's so I don't know. And with only a single camera normally, it's not like I have a lot of editing to do, but I use Premiere Pro. But I would not recommend pilots use that unless they really want to get into the deep weeds, because it's a serious program with a steep learning curve.
Yeah. Other than your own, what's the coolest or most memorable gliding YouTube you've seen lately?
Ooh. So the one that, it's always fun to see, something unique, but there was an open class glider that a guy was doing, I think, a winch launch on, several years ago, and it got multiple millions of views. And I just thought that would be so much fun to do. I'm just so busy with life. I wish I was able to spend more time sitting around watching YouTube videos, but I probably have a whole bunch of gliding YouTube videos to catch up on.
What's your favorite soaring book?
I've not read that many, but probably Moffat's Winning 2. That was a good book.
What would you value more, win a contest or set a record?
I'd say win a contest at this point, because state records are so fun. If you're flying at all and you're looking for purpose, take a look on the SSA's website, take a look at the state records and start going after them. So, I probably have, 12 or 15 Utah state records. That's actually not bragging. That's just showing that the bar's really low. So the answer is, yeah, I'd like to win a contest, but because state records are really not that hard. So,
okay, you have to land out, and both the fields are the same surface and length. Slight uphill with a 15-knot tailwind, or a slight downhill with a 15-knot headwind.
You said slight, so I think the real answer is that most of the time you don't know. You can't really see if it's really uphill or downhill. So if it's only slight, I like to land into the wind, because if you think about it, if you're landing with the tailwind, your ground speed, especially here in Utah, is going to be really, really fast. So there's more opportunity to hit something. So yeah, I like to land slow into the wind.
Emergency, you have two options: jump out with a parachute or land in a lake.
I joke, I'm so fat right now that my parachute would make the crater only 5 feet deep instead of 10 feet deep. So I'm going in the lake, baby, because if I actually had to use my parachute, I'm going to have some broken feet and legs and everything. So, all joking aside, though, if we need to use our parachute, multiple people that I know of, friends, have used them and they've gotten out safely. So if I needed to use it, I'd use my parachute.
Spoilers open or closed at start of tow?
Oh, always open, even if there's not a crosswind. But my glider's pilot's manual suggests it helps with the aileron control a little bit. So absolutely open in the 27.
Bucket hat, cap, bandana, or stocking cap?
You don't have a skull cap for the bald spot on top. It's a bucket hat, because we're glider pilots. We're supposed to look like fishing losers, and we do an amazing job with it. So,
shoes, boots, or barefoot?
No. Since I seem to be landing out lately, I'm glad I've had shoes on. So, not barefoot.
Water bottle or Camelback?
I got a Camelback. But I try really hard not to use it. I'm seeing, I was tempted quite a bit to use it before when I was on the ground. Leave that thing full for when you're in the air. So in case you do land out, you've got some water there too. So big Camelback in the back.
Vario sound on, in sync, or quiet?
So Vario on. However, I try to keep it as quiet as possible, because people in my videos talk about how annoying it is, but it also then, allows you to listen to the glider and the wind better. And so as quiet as possible.
Paper checklist, mnemonic?
What's a checklist? I do not have a paper checklist, so I use mnemonics.
Last time you looked at the compass?
I don't have a compass on mine. So I use, I look at the bearing, but that I'm flying, but I don't have a compass.
Most annoying thing on competition day?
The pause is not for drama. I enjoy competition so much. I can't think of anything. It's just so much fun. I got nothing. I'm completely blank.
Okay, we'll pass. How about the most pleasing or happy thing on competition day?
Right as you land and you open up the canopy with the helpers that are helping you get off the runway, asking them how the other pilots did. And then when they start saying, yeah, that was a tough day at the office, and you did well, that's kind of fun.
Nice. P-tube, P-bag, diaper, or hold it as long as you can and take a pee right when you jump out of the cockpit?
Yes and yes. So condom catheters are the way to go, going out through the bottom of the glider, but it's a pain in the butt to have to deal with. So if I can hold it till and pee afterwards, that's the way to go. But be prepared so you can, because needing to relieve yourself in flight can be very distracting. So be prepared.
Tie down for the night or stuff it into the trailer every time, no matter what?
I am from the West, not from the East. All the East guys love to stuff their gliders in their trailer every night. So for me, in the past, it's always just been tie down. I've been very lucky that just this year, I had built a Ensign hangar, which is I got a 15-meter one. I'll upgrade to an 18-meter when I get a new ship. But I now have a individual hangar. I can put it away every night, which is real fun.
Nice. Gatorade or water in summer flights?
I've never tried Gatorade, so I'm afraid of what it will do to my Camelback time after time after time, because I know I don't have the discipline to wash it, so I just use water.
Favorite single instrument in the cockpit?
I absolutely love my Butterfly Vario, because the real-time winds are incredible. It's an instant switch of the knob over to a artificial horizon, which has always been very accurate. And I test it every single flight, just as I'm flying straight, just to make sure it still looks good. And, it's very sensitive. That said, I completely hate the sounds that it makes. So I actually listen to my V7 as I'm more looking at my Butterfly Vario.
Tinted canopy or clear?
Slightly tinted.
Okay.
And it's really easy to go too dark. But I've got a couple of friends that went really dark, and they seem to like it. But underneath a dark cloud shelf, I bet it's pretty dark.
Yeah. Your adult beverage of choice on the last night of a long racing week?
Ooh. I would say make sure that you've invited Papa 7, Gary Ittner. He homebrews his own beer, and he actually brings kegs of beer to races. And he's
nice.
very, very liberal in sharing with everybody. And he had what was it? It was some British beer that it was a bitter. I think that's British. It wasn't carbonated, and he did good. So,
wow.
Something from Gary. That's the answer.
Yeah. Gary's going to be the favorite guy, right?
Oh yeah, he's great.
Bruno, it's been a lot of fun chatting with you, and nice to catch up with you. It's been a little while.
I've really enjoyed this. I don't know if we really got into too much meat and potatoes, but congratulations again for your 100th podcast. That's amazing, 100th episode, and I really looking forward to see what you come up with the next 100. So let me put you on the spot. And what do you expect? For the next 50 to 100. What do you want to achieve?
You did put me
let's
on
turn
the spot a little bit.
let's turn the tables, buddy.
Well, this all started with an idea I had to grow the sport of soaring, and it definitely has gone above and beyond my original expectations. My wife and my family have been very supportive, and some of my family, of course, are part of the team here. And I consider the whole team here at Soaring the Sky family. I sat here knocking the first couple episodes out, not knowing the future, but here we are, and it's been an awesome ride. We do have some exciting stuff planned for the near future, but I'm not going to let that out of the bag yet. You're just going to have to stay tuned for that. So, Bruno, what is next for you?
What is next? I'm really looking forward to starting to play with multiple cameras, both in the cockpit as well as out on the wing and out on the tail. So, looking forward to that, and actually, doing a little bit more editing so that way it's a little bit more of a story. And I've got some big goals for down the road with soaring, but nothing to announce yet. So again, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me and inviting me to do this, and really appreciate you.
The story I'm about to relay is about the time that I was a commercial glider pilot, a flight instructor, and a tow pilot for the summer operation of Harris Hill in the year 1976. My assignment that particular day, was to give glider rides. Well, the ride I was supposed to give was a young fellow about maybe 9 or 10 years old. I occupied the front seat of the 233 and he in the back. Everything was going well on the initial part of the tow till we got over the departure end of the runway. It was quite windy that day, and there was a lot of turbulence off the end of the runway. And the airplane kind of rocked back and forth and right to left, and it was kind of rough ride there at the end. Well, at this point, I had heard a loud twang, and I looked up, and the tow rope was snaking toward the tow plane. I'm thinking, oh man, I just had a rope break. And I looked back at Harris Hill, and I said, well, there's no way I can make it back there, with the altitude that we had. So I looked for alternate landing fields in the valley below us, which was occupied by a couple of farms. Well, I set up, and I found this field I really liked, set up for it, base, final, everything was good. Well, the reason I picked this particular field is that the field ended up to this person's backyard. My thought was, okay, we'll land in this field, roll out, and I'll be almost up to the backyard, so we won't have to drag the ship too far, because we can take a trailer and back it up into their driveway, into their yard, and just load the glider. Well, that was my thought. Well, we touched down fine. We rolled about 20 feet. I had forgotten it had rained quite heavily the night before. The field was just a quagmire of soft earth and mud. As we exited the ship, we sunk up past our ankles in the mud. But we were able to make our way out of the field into this person's backyard. Now, by this time, the crew up on Harris Hill had seen what was happening, and it was already down there to meet us. They said to me, well, why did you release? I said, I didn't release. The rope broke. They said, no, the rope did not break. The rope's intact. I said, really? And they said, yeah. They asked me, well, I told them I did not release. And all eyes looked at my young passenger as he was being hurriedly stuffed into the back seat of his family's car, and they quickly sped away. I guess my passenger, in the turbulence or whatever, grabbed something, and he grabbed that red knob and released us. So the rest of the day was spent pulling the glider out of the muddy field, across the backyard, up onto the trailer, and taking it up to Harris Hill, where it was washed, reassembled, and the bearings and the main wheel cleaned out.
Thank you to one of our listeners for that story that we can all learn from. They would like to remain anonymous, but I do appreciate them sharing that with us. If you have a story and you want to share, you can go to our website, click the Contact Us tab, and then look for the Share Your Story with the microphone next to it, and then go ahead and click that. It's that easy. We would love for you to share your name and where you're flying out of, but yes, you can remain anonymous. We want to hear those great stories here on Soaring the Sky.
Hey, Chuck, this is Dale Masters at Southern California Soaring Academy. Congratulations on this 100th podcast. I'll let you find the second 100 probably come sooner. Keep it up.
I want to take a minute and thank and tell you about our newest sponsor, Wings and Wheels. They've been serving the soaring and sport aviation community for more than 30 years now. They have the largest and most comprehensive inventory of sailplanes and soaring supplies in the U.S. Nearly everything you find on their site is in stock and ready for same-day shipping. They're proud to be an exclusive American representative for HPH Ltd., manufacturer of the finest quality sailplanes. The HPH Twin Shark is the newest 20-meter two-place sailplane on the market. Their staff has thousands of hours of flying experience in gliders and airplanes, staffed by Adam, Kelly, Julie, and Sean. You can bet a friendly voice will answer when you call. They're located in Eagle, Idaho, in their new commercial building with a warehouse built to their specifications, and that was completed this year. Whether shipping domestic or international, your soaring-related supply list is covered. They would love for you to come and visit the next time you're in the Boise area. You can check them out on wingsandwheels.com. We're super excited to have them on the pod.
Hi everyone, Sergio from Soaring Master here. Today we're going to talk about one of the most important decisions a pilot can make, buying a sailplane. Buying a sailplane depends on lots of factors, like how often do you fly, the type of flying you see yourself pursuing for the next 5 years or so, how much money are you willing to spend. If your club's fleet is undersized for the number of members, if your personal goals require a type with more performance, or if you simply want a sailplane for yourself, the next step is to analyze the following options. The first one is buying a new or a used sailplane. Buying a new sailplane manufactured to meet your specifications is a great experience, but one that requires patience. Once you sign the contract, you are assigned a position in the production line. It's a fancy way to say that you joined the queue. Sometimes it can take from 2 to 4 years, depending on the type and the manufacturer. This is one of the easiest ways of buying a trouble-free unit, and they all come with warranty, usually of 1 year or of a number of flight hours. But this comes with a high price too. That's why a used sailplane is a good option. Usually the sailplane's price will have already lowered due to depreciation. Depreciation is related to the sailplane's current condition and to how close the unit is from a costly inspection or from the end of its service life. So you need to know exactly what is the manufacturer's maintenance schedule. So ask a copy of the sailplane's logs to know every detail about the sailplane's life, if any airworthiness directive implementation is missing. So analyze the sailplane's maintenance schedule and look for every airworthiness directive ever issued by the manufacturer to assess how many flight hours are available. Also, hire an inspector to give you a professional evaluation. This can help a lot during the negotiation. Another option at hand is buying a pure or sustainer-equipped sailplane. If you want performance and you live near a gliding club and you don't have problems in finding a ground support team, most probably a pure sailplane will do, and you won't need the extra cost related to a sustainer engine. But if you constantly fly cross country, having the chance to just call the day and head back home without any further ado is great. If this is your profile and you live near a club with a tow plane, a sustainer equipped sailplane might be a good choice. But if you live far from any gliding club and you regularly fly cross country or take part in soaring camps, you might need a self-launched sailplane. The freedom of taking off whenever you want is awesome, but only countered by engine reliability. It's sad to say, but true. The mechanical and electrical systems which allows the engine extraction, retraction, and functioning are not simple ones. So yeah, you will eventually have to abort the flight on a perfect day due to some engine problem. If you buy a new self-launched sailplane, these problems will be very rare for the first 5 years. But hey, who has never missed a flight day due to engine problems with the tow plane before? Another option that we must analyze is buying a certified or experimental sailplane. It's not only about price. A certified sailplane is an aircraft manufactured in accordance with an approved design, which is called type. And the owner must certify with each annual inspection that the aircraft still is in accordance with this type. So any maintenance or repair must be done by a technician or a center certified by the manufacturer. An experimental sailplane is an aircraft without a type certificate, so it's up to the aircraft's owner to maintain its airworthiness. You can more easily make modifications like installing winglets, and it doesn't mean that you won't have to comply with the sailplane's manufacturer maintenance schedule. It means that you are the responsible for ensuring that the aircraft is safe or airworthy. You have more freedom to hire any mechanic to do maintenance work, or you can do it on your own if you have the knowledge. It ends up being cheaper, but depending on your country, experimental aircraft may face airspace restrictions. The certified aircraft airworthiness is backed by the manufacturer. The experimental aircraft airworthiness is backed by you. My own sailplane, my self-launched Peak 20 Echo, is an experimental aircraft. Another option that we must analyze is buying alone or in a syndicate. If you can afford buying the sailplane alone, do it. But you are going to realize that inevitably the sailplane will end up underused, and the costs will fall solely on you. Again, if this is not a problem, well, this won't be an issue. But a syndicate is a very common buying option. The only thing is that the group must be a united one. Buying a sailplane is a huge investment, so the number one rule of any negotiation is to leave your emotions at the door. See you guys next episode. Take care.
Hey, this is Bruno Vassel, and I just wanted to wish Chuck and team a huge congratulations for reaching 100 podcasts with Soaring the Sky. You guys have had amazing content, great interviews, and I've really enjoyed watching you guys grow. Can't wait for the next 100. Congratulations.
Thank you, Bruno, and thanks to all of our guest pilots who have brought us all the amazing content that we've been able to share with you here on the podcast. Thank you for continuing, of course, to come back and listen to each and every episode. And of course, thanks again to the amazing team here at Soaring the Sky for helping me put all this together. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and happy soaring.
If you would like to say hi and let us know where you are enjoying the podcast, we would love to hear from you. If you are a glider pilot and want to share your aviation journey, contact us at chuck@soaringthesky.com or send us a message on our website at soaringthesky.com and Chuck will get in touch with you. We hope you join us next time for another soaring adventure here on Soaring the Sky, a Glider Pilots podcast. Soaring the Sky is written and produced by Chuck Fulton, co-producer Mitch Thompson. Original music for the podcast was written and produced by Kim Spangler. Graphic design for the podcast was created by Zachary Fulton. Voiceover work was done by Michelle Perez.